Our first award of the evening, Street Law's Educator of the Year Award, will be presented by Anna Karen Garcia. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to this young woman who is a graduate of the Street Law program at Roosevelt High School in Los Angeles.
Hi, good evening. My name is Anna Garcia, and I am currently attending the East Los Angeles Community College with a major in political science and a minor in business. Learning is fundamental. Where would you be without all the great teachers who spend time helping you learn about yourself and the world? A great teacher is someone who won't let you leave his class without answering your questions. Someone who is willing and won't mind getting off track so that a student won't leave his class confused. Someone who can be pushy and prepares you for your future. That teacher is Mr. Castillo. I was in Mr. Castillo's law and economic class for 3 years. And in those 3 years, I can't remember how many times we seemed to get completely immersed in a topic or a debate of some kind. What I do remember is how much I enjoyed being in his class, not only because of his enthusiasm of teaching, but how deeply he could get into a subject. My sophomore year, Mr. Castillo encouraged us to participate in teen court. This was the first of many experiences that would shape my post-high school plans. Before I knew, I had become so heavily involved. It wasn't only teen court sessions I was attending as a juror, but also as a trained Institute on Hate Crimes at the Museum of Tolerance. Soon I was also participating in Beyond the Bench conference sponsored by the California Administrative Office of the Courts and entering in the Los Angeles County Superior Court. Now that my level of involvement in a variety of programs and opportunities related to law has motivated me to pursue a career in law. I now know that is this time of encouragement that has possibly impacted me not only. I'm sorry. Very nervous. I know that. Thank you. I know that this is the type of encouragement that has possibly impacted not only me, but many other students as well. As many have taken and still take advantage of the opportunities Mr. Castillo shared to us. I feel very privileged and extremely honored to have the opportunity to assist in the presentation of this award to not only one of the best teachers I've had, but to one of the true role models as well. Please join me in welcoming Street Law's 2015 Educator of the Year Award recipient, Mr. Castillo.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna. I'm going to set this down for a minute here. Thank you so much. I am deeply honored and humbled to be the recipient of this very special award for this year. I want to thank Street Law for their nomination, and of course, and also McGraw-Hill for sponsoring the award. Thank you, Anna, for your kind words. As Anna mentioned, she was instrumental in being one of the student leaders that helped build our teen court program at Roosevelt, which is kind of like an offshoot of what Street Law does and what we envision for our school. She has very ambitious plans, and I know that she's well on her way to achieving them, so thank you. I also want to welcome one of my other former students, Christian Juarez, who's sitting here at the table as well. Christian is actually finishing his freshman year at Georgetown, right down the street. So we're very proud of him at Roosevelt High School, as you could imagine. I wish that there was an award like this for every teacher out there that has made a difference in students' lives. I know that when I think back about my schooling experience, there are a lot of teachers that I like to thank and create a special award for. A simple recognition or acknowledgement that something that they said or did made a difference. So I'd like to do that right now. Let me take a moment to thank Mr. Duncanwood. He was my third grade teacher. I can still vividly remember, believe it or not, a lesson on photosynthesis and plants that he taught us. Mr. Duncanwood had cleared out a small little dirt embankment outside of his classroom, which actually was a portable classroom that had been there for way too long. He cleared it out of mostly weeds and like sticky monkey plant, and he divvied it up into 32 little plots that he assigned to each of his students. And he taught us how to fertilize and till the soil, and soon he had 32 little third graders, growing carrots and other vegetables. I remember that Mr. Duncanwood could be mean. He had it in him to be mean. But I remember he didn't have to be. The way he got around to controlling, third graders was to take away your garden privileges for the day. And, that was enough to bring some of us to tears. I mean, that was it. That's all he had to do. I want to thank Miss Samick, my fifth grade teacher. I think that was the first white teacher that I ever had introduce herself to us as an immigrant. She absolutely riveted us, to our seats when she recounted stories about how, as a small child, her and her parents actually fled Czechoslovakia after the annexation by the Nazis. I also remember that Miss Samick was the first self-admitted hippie that I ever met. I remember her playing Peter, Paul, and Mary songs in the class while we worked on art projects and whatnot. She actually brought her her guitar to class and would actually sing, to us, Puff the Magic Dragon lives by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist. You know the rest. In the land called Honolulu, you know it. And there was this Kookaburra song. I don't know if you heard that one. It wasn't a Peter, Paul, and Mary song, but Kookaburra sits in the old gum tree. Mary, Mary, king of the bushes, he. Sing, Kookaburra, sing, Kookaburra, sing your song for me. What teachers will do for students, it's, you didn't think I was going to sing up here tonight, I know. I want to thank Ms. Wadsworth, my sixth grade teacher, for convincing us that we would not live to see junior high if we could not, assign the Gettysburg Address to memory and recite it in front of her and the class, which I did, of course, and I'm not going to try to sing the Gettysburg Address, so don't worry. She was also the first teacher whose home I ever visited. And anybody here ever visit a teacher's home when you're in elementary school? It's a interesting experience. I mean, you don't imagine that they're regular people, but I saw her son raking leaves in the front yard, and I saw her husband, cussing at charcoals in the backyard, in the barbecue grill. But it was a grounding experience for me because, she was just a regular person, like my family. So I think back fondly on these experiences because they're not only memorable, or sometimes funny, but I think that they did something for me and to me. I have to give credit to my former teachers that I feel helped me develop my love of science or, my appreciation for historical documents or maybe even my lack of inhibition, I don't know. When I decided to become a teacher, I knew that I wanted to create memorable experiences in the hearts and minds of my students. But by this time, I had been politicized in college and had become much more serious about the issues that I wanted students to grapple with. And I was extremely fortunate to have prepared in college, to believe wholeheartedly that civic learning can provide students with knowledge, skills, and dispositions that they need to be informed and engaged participants in our democracy. But, yes. But how do you engage 14 to 18-year-olds with civic learning? Have you seen what we're competing against? And that's where street law made a huge impact in my classroom, and our developing of our law-related program at Roosevelt High School in East Los Angeles. A recent task force on K-12 civic learning identified 6 proven practices in civic learning: providing classroom instruction in government, history, law, economics, and democracy, combining community service and learning, discussing current events, giving students a voice for school governance, offering extracurricular activities and clubs, and simulating the democratic process. Street law has been all that and is all that and much more. I attended the Street Law Supreme Court Summer Teachers Institute in the summer of 2007, and I can say that experience also had a profound effect on my development as a teacher, whether it's breaking up students into jigsaw activity groups to help students learn about several Supreme Court cases in a limited amount of time, or doing a moot court to go more in depth on one single case. I cannot measure how invaluable the Street Law Summer Institute experience was for me, and in turn for all of my students that I took what I learned and shared with. It definitely has helped me develop those civic knowledge, skills, and dispositions. And then there's the Legal Diversity Program that I know a lot of you here are part of. 3 years ago, I got an email from Megan Hansen asking if I would be interested in partnering up with a law firm in Los Angeles. And of course, I said yes. And for the last 3 years, my senior classes mostly have been partnered up with AIG's legal department in Los Angeles, where for 3 days, my students have gotten access to attorneys and legal professionals. For most of my students, it's actually the first time they ever spoke to a lawyer, and the first time they ever visit an executive office building, and for many of them, the first time they ever sit in an executive conference room. And like I said, talk about experiences for me and my students. Speaking of experiences, if anyone has ever seen Megan Hansen train a group of lawyers with their first interaction with students, you've got to admit that you have watched a master of the craft of teaching. I really love what she does and what she's done. So thank you, Megan, for that. So all in all, I once again have to restate that this recognition has got to be one of the highlights of my many experience that I've had, and it will undoubtedly challenge me to continue to develop civic-minded young people. I will cherish it. I will try to live up to the reputation of the Street Law Organization and all the great teachers that have received this award before me. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Thank you.